Book is actually really good. And then Hoya going for the Poppy. So I like the ingenuity of this top side and hope we get to see some of that ingenuity come through here in this series against WE.
Well, we're into the draft, so if we're going to see any ingenuity, it's going to start now, Quax. And right now we're already seeing VODS get through. This is a champion that's been banned quite often in the first set of bans for either side, but this time he'll be around, so a lot of that early pressure going to have to be matched by NIP.
And I wonder what NIP are going to go here. If they decide to match with an AD carry, I would imagine it's probably going to be something that can exploit him in the lane. I think a Felios Corki could be an answer, but instead, NIP are just going for the straight-up hot pot combo. They are going to be locking in the Rumble along with the Jarvan. Graves and I talked about this a little bit in the last series, Yanni, but we said how common Jarvan has been here so far in the LPL. He's been one of the most successful picks of this season thus far, just because of the amount of early pressure he can provide. Rumble does give him an avenue to play for that top side if he chooses to do so, but Yorick, while immobile, does have that play place and is a bit more difficult to take down once he gets some items under his belt.
Hey, listen, everybody's going to be in the arena from Jarvan Cataclysm to Dark Procession. I do think it is very odd that Team WE has elected to pick 2 more champions that will get stuck in Jarvan's ultimate. Yeah. Obviously, you could have Realm Warp out, but when you are in such a confined space, it's very hard to dodge out on CC. NIP rounding out their first half with a Talia, so wanting some of that extra global presence and putting the ball in the hands of Karis.
And this is the most, I believe, played champion by Karis when we're looking at stats, not only from this year, but Demacia Cup, and then a little bit at the end of last year when he was on Fun plus Phoenix. And that's the big thing that we're looking at for particularly a lot of these players, Yanni, is how are they going to adapt to this new home that is Ninjas in Pyjamas? I mean, Karis spent his whole career basically on FPX, first in their pipeline and then being able to start in tier 1. Assum was kind of the same way toward the latter half of 2025. So it's about making an impression and being a staple for a new organization. And I think Karis going back to his roots, going for this Talia, pairing it up with the Jarvan and the Rumble, already is setting themselves up for successes. This is a very front-to-back-esque comp, but I think to round it out, you need a little bit more sauce in that hot pot. And I was going to say the Misfortune, but they picked it before I could sound smart. I like this lock-in from Assum.
Oh, it's fantastic, especially because we mentioned the, everybody getting stuck in the Jarvan ultimate earlier. 2 members are going to be stuck in there at some point, and that bullet time is going to rain hellfire over them. We'll have to see what the answer is going to be for Team WE, and Mundo could be a potentially good one. If you want to survive a bullet time, just have too much health for them to actually take you down. And it looks like that will be the lock-in. Quax, it looks like we do need a lot of heavy CC coming out of the support role to kind of cobble this team together.
Yeah, CC definitely needs to be the name of the game, because you look across the board of NIP and really the only reliable crowd control you have is the flag and drag. You've got the shove from the Talia, but I mean, Mundo is going to be CC exempt. The only thing that's really going to get that canister off of him is the flag and dragon. So that'll make it really difficult to catch Monki out of position, even in a lot of these fights. If you try to start it out by picking off the Mundo, it's just not going to work. He's going to be too tanky and he's going to be completely CC resistant. So I like WE, taking away maybe another crowd control champion from NIP. Like you said, the denial by locking in the Braum. Bard is a good pick here for, continuing to set up that bullet time and play into the 5v5. But I do wonder how Zhuo is going to be handling roaming around the map with this pick. I think anytime a Bard is locked in, you have to think about, okay, is he gonna, how soon can he link up with Guwon? How soon can they make plays around the map? Which lane and matchup can they influence the most to snowball the game forward?
Yeah, and I think this pick is essentially born out of the fact that there's VODS on the other side. We know Misfortune to be a very aggressive early game AD carry, but a lot of that aggression is tempered when you do get outranged, plus the Braum shield being able to kind of block some double ups in the lane if you have to. It doesn't mean that Assum could be on his own. And if he is on his own and Monki decides he wants to pay a visit down bottom, it could be disastrous dives over on the side of NIP. But you're right, Zhuo moving around is going to be so important. We're also going to have to see what Guwon's going to put together, right? We've seen a lot of Jarvan, as you mentioned earlier, but not only that, we've seen Jarvan players make an impact early. I've seen very few games where he's just doing cardio in the early game. It's going to be up to Guwon to get these laners fed, play the game through somebody. I'm looking for this Misfortune early. be able to take over and bridge the gap, and make sure that Hoya, once he joins these fights, is far too strong.
One little concern that I have about this Hot Pot combo and the Misfortune being able to execute it with that bullet time is you look across the top side of the map and it's pretty heavy on the health stackers, and they'll be pretty tanky once they get some items under their belt. So if Misfortune doesn't get ahead early or doesn't have the damage necessary to rip through some of those tankier health bars later down the line, then I feel like the bullet time is going to lose a lot of its value. So I'm looking at the bot lane. I'm looking to get this Misfortune ahead, and if they can manage to give Assum those resources necessary for him to be that tank destroyer, not discriminating against the tanks and the squishies, just demolishing all of them in the team fight, I think NIP are poised and set up very nicely to take this game in good fashion.
We saw NIP in the skybox. That means that we are in NIP's home stadium, so hopefully home field advantage will be able to help them out a little bit. You know, we talk about their creativity. Nothing too overwhelming when it comes to rune choices and the like. So, well, we'll see if NIP can play the standard game and get a win over a team that, you know, we have mentioned has had their trouble spots. You know, if anybody is going to punish them in group perseverance, it looks like NIP could be the team to do so.
Yeah, and I like that Zhuo is actually, we were talking about the keystones, and nothing too unique, but I do like seeing Zhuo decide to say, hey, I'm going to go for the electrocute. Gives you a little bit more lane presence. It gives you a lot better trading, and like you said earlier, Yanni, Misfortune is one of those AD carries that is very good at fighting in the early levels, so Zhuo kind of leaning into that style a little bit. I wonder if this is going to maybe delay him from roaming around the map. Instead, he's going to try and focus on getting this Misfortune ahead and, you know, sticking with her in the 2v2s. That could cause some issues maybe in the side lanes if WE pan out and pull ahead in those areas. But, you know, you take the good with the bad.
You know what the beauty of this season is, Quax? Take a look at our mid laners once this bottom third goes away. Yeah. Look at their secondary summoner. Once that one goes away, too.
Yep.
Their secondary summoners. We have Ghost for the Rise. We have Cleanse for the Talia. Quax, I have to say, I am a little perplexed by this Cleanse.
Hey, man, it's home guards, and mid lane is the shortest lane, so we're not missing anything anymore.
I don't mind the second summoner. I'm just questioning the Cleanse in this particular game. Like, sure, it's Braum passive, it's Rise Root.
It's Varus ultimate as well. I mean, a lot of these fight starters are generated by the pick tools that WE have. Like, they don't really have a go button right now. I think the best go button that they have is probably, unironically, the Varus ultimate. That's not like the most reliable thing in the world to get a fight started. So I do think that going for that cleanse kind of removes the threat of you going down in these earlier phases as care of you getting picked off and starting a disadvantageous fight for your team as this Talia. So I see the angle. I think it's a little bit weird, but I think that there is validity to deciding to go for that summoner spell, all things considered.
Ships passing in the night for these junglers so far. Monki is on the top side here, anticipating that Guwon may be the one to show up, as he immediately had stopped. But is he sticking around? He was waffling between it once he saw the ward go down, but yeah, we'll just head to his Gromp anyway. And really, that's all you care about right now as Mundo. Mundo, oddly enough, one of those champions that you want to just farm until you're level 6. So those early skirmishes are so difficult for the other side.
And Guwon, I mean, it's the complete opposite. It's a race against the clock. Try and be as impactful in these first 10 or so minutes as you possibly can. Influence the map as much as you possibly can. So far, you know, obviously it's only 4 minutes into the game, but hasn't really had the opportunity to do so. I like this vision that WE have kind of set up on the top side to really track where this Jarvan is and prevent him from getting any surprise plays off on the WE members, because I think it's not even just the Mundo that wants to scale, but it's also the Rise, it's also the Yorick really wanting to hit some of those level or item breakpoints, and Jarvan is one of the things that can disrupt that. So as long as he's not interfering with the scaling of this WE topside, I think that they're in a pretty good spot, all things considered.
We were talking about Zhuo's roams and did move around, was able to get some vision down, no real impact on, you know, potentially making plays, but was able to leave Assum alone for the moment, and things were generally fine. So we'll look to see more of that as these players start leveling up. You see Kara, the first one to level 6 in this game, so clock is immediately going to start ticking. When is he going to use that first Weaver's Wall, and what are you going to get at him?
See maybe some action coming out toward the bot side. Magical Journey. Guwon just shows his face in the bot lane, trying to impact it. We did see heal expended by Yaoyao. It's a small summoner spell, but is worth noting in case any scraps come out here. As good trading here by Care, just trying to start up
Karis
something for Guwon to be a part of.
Okay, Guwon electing not to try to close that gap. Monki gonna show up as well. So these mid laners both a little low. Care a little bit better off in the mana department. The junglers are gonna stare each other down. We got ourselves a standoff, Quax, but it looks like the crab will go to WE side.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, maybe they try and transition this into a dragon, but I think Yaoyao resetting there probably signals that they're not going to. We see the reset from Karis. I mean, Kara is also going to have to reset really quickly after he pushes this lane, so that gives a little bit of time, yeah, for Monki looking at the lane states and just the reset timers that NIP are on. To say, hey, I can sneak this objective away. And I think Chemtech is a nice thing to have in the back of your pocket when you're talking about all of these health stacking, tankier topside members.
Keep in mind that by doing that, you do expend your turn, essentially, as the jungler on Team WE. This does mean that you're going to either lose out on some vision to go get your camps, because it's going to be very relevant in a minute and 20 seconds. You know you want to grab these grubs if you're Team WE with your strong side laners. Rise and York, you can see them, the Rise and the Mundo, having a look, at the very least, to see if they want to do something, but not so.
You can also see that it's not shown on the cam right now, but the bot lane is kind of just jockeying for control. I imagine that both of these supports want to be at least a little bit involved in trying to secure these grubs, because while it is important for WE, I think NIP want to try and aggress. Speaking of aggression.
Yeah, flashing on Assum. Assum's got to flash away himself after that Chains of Corruption went out. We're seeing an equalizer go down as Hoya is just trying to get whatever control he can. 40 seconds until these grubs are up. If he can take out the Maiden, that is pretty massive.
Yep. So, no Maiden. That's going to be on a timer here for Cube. He won't have that immediately if the grubs are started on spawn, as Guwon is just looking for any excuse to be a fighter here in the early game. It's been a very quiet first 7.5 minutes into the game, but I mean, just the way that both of these teams are posturing, I imagine we'll see at least a little bit of blood spill around these grubs. WE really want this objective.
We really want to see Zhuo hit level 6 for NIP. You know, obviously, Team WE wants to see 6 on their Braum as well, but just the impact that Tempered Fate can have seems to be, you know, a little bit stronger than the Glacial Fissure, just because you get to engage from a range if you want. Down to half HP, having to take it back here, not close to level 6, means that you're not going to have it for the scrub fight. Team WE with all the control for now, NIP is definitely going to fight for it.
I mean, WE can't immediately start up on the grubs, though, because Hoya got shoved in the top side. Cube still has made it on cooldown, so that's one ultimate WE won't have in this fight. As, I mean, the Equalizer is also on cooldown for Hoya, so both teams actually no ult keys for their top laner. As they haven't started up, Guwon gets the first one.
We're ghosting. There's that Equalizer, but there's no follow-up to be had yet. Awesome.
Everyone's
just getting
here
to the party. Teleport coming through. This is a very slow teleport for
save
a bout, and everybody's lying in wait. He's immediately going to flash away. There's that bullet time.
Ooh.
Doing good damage. About Yaoyao. Go down. Huge kills. Guwon will fall. It's a 4v3 for now. It's Cube and Monki getting chased down. You know Care wants it. He's going to miss the seismic shove, but both members of WE will be split apart, and both members of WE will fall. It's just a matter of time before they catch up to Monki, but it looks like they backed Care. I'm a little surprised they didn't want to ride the wall to get close. Equalizer from downtown! Will get it done with the Arcane Comet.
That's the Equalizer snipe there from Hoya to signal the end of that fight, and NIP walk away the victors. Overall, it just felt like a bit of miscommunication here from WE. That teleport immediately forcing About into a bad spot, has to flash, and then there's nothing the Varus can really do.
Oh, there's a ward up there.
Yeah, it would have been a way safer path, but he puts himself into the middle of the action. His team has to try and bail him out. He already uses that summoner spell, and then the bullet time set up there for the Misfortune, exactly like how the comp wants it to. Is we go back to live, and suddenly I think a death just occurred on the screen there.
Yeah, they were like, oh, it's only one kill. We can watch the rest of this replay. Awesome picked up another while this was going on. You can see the split here. And I'm a little bit surprised that Carrot stopped, but I guess maybe Hoya was calling it out. Hey, I can just hit him with the equalizer. Don't worry about it. Get your back in. Because Karis did get a lot in the CS department once he realized that fight was pretty cooked.
And I think overall happy with that fight, which is why they're not going for the last grub, is now you see Zhuo doing exactly what we were hoping for, being a nuisance in the face of Monki and doing Bard things.
Still doesn't have that ultimate yet, and it is so hard to kind of stop the assault from Mundo walking forward in this NIP team comp. We talked about how they don't really have great ways to pop that shield, but they do have an equalizer and a bullet time over the top. Awesome, ripping him to pieces once again. He's going to take on About while Karis finds himself somehow near the blue buff. And About, I'm sorry, brother. You don't have flash because of that ill-fated TP, and you don't have a life anymore. Awesome is 5-0 on this Misfortune.
We talked about the Misfortune needing to be the catalyst for NIP success. The damage needed to come across so those top lane tankier members on WE will get ripped apart in the mid to late game. But based on the way this game is going, Yanni, I don't know if we're going to see many late game team fights. NIP are just dominating in this game, and frankly, this was just a massive overstep from WE. You don't have any engage tools. You're walking into them completely blind. It's not only does it feel like a force, but even Hoya getting a little bit of gold off of that teleport, so making it worth it. And overall, not only is it the Misfortune getting a ton of gold, but even everybody else I feel like is, you know, getting their piece of the pie as well. You're not solely reliant on Assum to carry everybody on NIP is in a really good spot.
Yeah, and this is one of his best picks, Quax, a champion that he has been known for so far here in the LPL, and you know, having another banner performance on it right now. We'll see if he's able to keep that up. I would assume that he will. It is very difficult for Team WE to get on top of him, but the good news for Team WE is while they are down 3,000 gold, this is their comfort zone, Quax. They've been down in gold at 20 minutes in every game. If they turn it around before the 20-minute mark, though, that's what I'm saying. Team WE's losing this game if they go ahead in gold before 20 minutes.
Yep,
clearly,
so
that's their kryptonite.
Everyone in the chat saying, oh, NIP 2-0, you know who you are. I don't know who you are, but you know who you are. Redact those sentences right now because we got 20 minutes coming up in about 7 minutes. So wait for the 2-0s in the chat. Hold those off until then, as NIP are still going to make that 20-minute mark. As, oh boy, here we go. Awesome.
Awesome using the cleanse will flash away. And he will be able to escape once again. So a couple of attempts on the life of Assum have not come to pass quite yet.
Yeah, Assum, little too far up there. Does have to expend both summoners. And I mean, this is where I feel like it's just difficult to imagine WE can actually capitalize off of it, because Monki, he's coming in here to try and interfere with the lane, try and, you know, punish Assum.
Everybody else is too.
But engaging is hard.
All right, we've hit About, and here comes everybody else. That Weaver's Wall, though, not the greatest ever, and the Chains of Corruption will prevent NIP from getting any closer.
I mean, at the very least, you expend some of those ultimates from the NIP members, notably that Weaver's Wall from Care, but given that there isn't a Dragon coming up for another 4 minutes, I don't really think WE are going to have an opportunity to capitalize off it. I say that, and Karis is immediately hovering toward the top side to maybe interfere with this top lane 1v1. There is also a Herald coming up in about 40 seconds, and you can already see with that roam coming out from Yaoyao, he's in the topside river. Both of these teams are actually pinging to contest this objective, but NIP are 3,000 gold ahead and still have a 5-0 Misfortune, Yanni. So one team is definitely coming in with more firepower than the other.
And not only that, NIP have all the go buttons. You know, we talked about how WE doesn't really have that. Zhuo's going to be able to portal over the wall, gets a heal. for himself.
Oh my God,
He's going to
Monki!
continue to chase after him, looking for more. Zhuo getting very low. Karis coming through as well as Yaoyao forces away the rest of NIP. It's a big pick.
Oh my God, they're angry!
With the equalizer and the bullet time. Monki goes down, and that could be Herald over to NIP.
And this is what we said. WE, they get a pick, but they don't know when to stop. It's all gas, no brakes, and they go for a collision course. NIP get the trade with a 1-for-1, and now can reclaim maybe some lost territory onto that topside river.
Karis just trying to match care for the moment. Guwon and Zhuo lying in wait. They want to make a play on this guy. That seismic shove not going to land, but everybody else is coming through. There's that Bard ultimate, that Tempered Fate does not land. And Guwon elects not to go in. That is a big tool down as Monki is now back on the map. In Quax, it's very difficult for Team WE to really get things going. We were just talking about how NIP has all the go buttons. Feels difficult for Monki to be the driver on this champion as they're going to go for Karis once again. This time they get his flash.
Yeah, good fancy feet coming out there as they basically are conceding the topside objective now, looking for a dive onto Hoya.
Yep, and we're even getting the Braum showing up to the party, but he's the one who snags the kill. This does give the green light for NIP to go take this Herald.
I mean, I feel like they're probably going to get the turret off of that on the bot side, but that shutdown gold needed to go into the pockets of one of these carries. Guwon is going to be able to get this Herald, and then when he places it, we'll probably be able to trade 1-for-1 with those towers. So that kill gold needed to be the difference. Is now Assum might be in trouble.
Assum sidesteps the chains. The block is there. Assum still trying to stay upright.
Wait, what? Karis got the Herald.
Wait a minute, Karis? Yeah, Guwon was just too low, and now Karis rope warps in.
What?
Zhuo is caught. Big stun going down, but everybody's just standing there menacingly. Karis getting his third kill, and now Hoya with a teleport on the bottom side, flashing past the Dark Procession, and he said it's time for the solo laners to clean up, but it's Cube who was left alone with care to make this a 1-for-1 on the bottom side. Disaster strikes for NIP.
This is just the most random sequence of events I feel like we've had all night, Yanni. Karis getting the Herald, WE winning a fight, picking off Assum in a place where he should not be, NIP fighting on the bot side for God knows whatever reason. It's just an absolute crazy series of events coming out here. I pray to God we see what happened with that Herald, because Guwon, did he flag and drag over the wall and just allow Karis to auto it a couple of times?
He was low. He was low. Let's take a look at the start of this, where they go after Assum.
Okay, so Flash, Glacial Fissure, Guwon has to flag and drag to survive. Yeah, so he saves his life, but then is kind of, pulled out of retirement for one last job, immediately bails out of that one last job, doesn't even collect his pension, and his bot lane dies in front of his very eyes.
Then you look on the bottom side, this is a really nice attempt on the life of care. He's able to get back, and you think that this is going to be a fairly easy turnaround for NIP, but this play being a 1-for-1, it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I felt like Hoya assumed care probably had this 1v1, looks across the bot lane. Speaking of bot lane, we got action in the bot lane again.
Well, Hoya said, "This is what you get for killing my friend." As he leaves him alone with care for the second, but Guwon said, no need to worry. Up in that top side, though, saw big things happening. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, you don't even need the Tempered Fate, but guess who's coming in from behind? It's Monki and Karis. And that magical journey's not going to get you far enough away. Monki ready to frontline, doesn't have great health. But Guwon's going to shove him off. All right, here we go. What are we going to see? Assum with the bullet time. It splits the gap between multiple. Monki goes down. Yaoyao may find himself dead very soon. We're waiting for the seismic shove to come in, but it does not land, and Yaoyao will be able to walk out.
And it just kind of felt like WE, they were going in one by one. They weren't able to be a collective front in that team fight. It starts with about going down, and then Cube and Monki trying to save face end up falling as well. NIP win out on the exchange. They'll get themselves the mid lane turret, and honestly, before we even started that play, it was basically the WE top side raising that top lane to the ground. They got multiple turrets worth of gold, but it all feels equalized now that NIP have won out in this exchange, and with that mid lane tower going down, it's going to be a lot easier for them to set up for these future dragons.
Assum has just been so good at dodging out of these chains of corruptions while he's being slowed. He has just done such a good job. It has directly resulted in 2 fights going better for NIP than they really have any credit to.
Yeah, and it just kind of feels like positioning errors on the side of WE. I mean, we even go back to that one play where they were trying to look for something onto Guwon around his blue buff, them just walking into total darkness and allowing themselves to essentially get flanked by the Rumble. It feels like they are looking for plays but aren't setting up for them properly, and they're going to have to start doing that. NIP, if they get this next dragon, that'll be soul point for them. They need to be willing to take the time to carve out vision on this bot side river so that they can prevent that from happening and extend a bit of life in that win condition for themselves.
Quax, it's past 20 minutes. Hold on, they're going to go all the way after about, but they won't be able to get
Wrong
them.
side of the wall.
But yeah, past 20 minutes and NIP have a gold lead. That means that Team WE is in that comfort zone that we were talking about. And to their credit, they have fought back over the last few minutes. Yeah. Remember that this was a 3,500 gold deficit. They've cut it down to just 700 at this point. Karis, incredibly strong at this point in the game. That Rod of Ages in just a couple of moments is going to tick over and get full stacks, but he has been well farmed on top of it. I'm expecting him to do some big things this game if he can position himself properly.
With how accelerated Assum is, I actually wouldn't hate if this Misfortune decided, hey, maybe I go for like a Serpent's Fang this game. It would really only affect the Rise, but Karis is the most fed member. You should be building against the most fed member. The biggest threat to your win condition definitely is the mid laner of WE right now, so I think she could go Serpents as Monki is, you're not
he's going
that
where
strong,
he pleases. He's going where he pleases for sure, but now he's got to use his ultimate, knock up onto Assum, chunking him out. Nothing more to be had on the bottom side. Karis taking a turret on his own. Some solid side laning. We've yet to see a ton out of Cube as we see him down there hanging out. Outside of him and Karis taking those top side turrets, he's been fairly muted, even with 2 grubs in the back pocket.
And honestly, because Monki doesn't have that maximum dosage now, it's a lot more difficult for WE to step up and look for some of these deeper wards. You can see that Yaoyao is going to be able to place some vision, but that's really only because they have control of mid. NIP should not really be conceding these waves at this point. Not only do you need mid lane priority in order to transition that into vision around the bot side, that tower is also extremely low. I feel like NIP need to be willing to guard around that area as yeah, you can't really guard around this, though. Monki is just going to face tank the tower. But still, without that ultimate, I feel like NIP should have the ability to walk into that bot side river without fearing that Mundo can just go wherever he pleases.
They did leave some meat on the bone. You don't get turret candy when you do that. So
that is true.
They will elect to say, you know, we're not getting any candy at the checkout today. We have candy at home. Now we have 10 seconds until this dragon. NIP in a very interesting spot because Assum is very close to that Infinity Edge. It looks like they will opt into the fight regardless. Just trying to make sure that they get themselves on soul point.
Looking across the board, WE, all of their members have Flash except for Yaoyao, who elected to go for the Ghost Teleport. So I'm looking at that Cataclysm to be a big thing to burn those
big
sums.
damage. Assum's in trouble. He's very low. Okay, he'll get the portal out, trying desperately to get away. Boom! Snipes him from downtown, and that means that NIP has got to run. Will they look for a re-engage? 2,000 HP on the dragon. Instead, NIP say, we are out. Yep. Team WE not up the dragons at 2 apiece.
And WE post 20-minute buff is starting to maybe kick in here, Yanni, as, you know, it never fails. But, I mean, you could even see Assum's reaction in the player cam.
The Baron.
They're going for Baron. They do not care. They are going straight onto this objective. They got 1 finger, and they want to take the whole arm.
Quax, we have seen many teams go up 1 member and say, okay, we can do the Baron now. This is not the same Baron as 2025. Karis trying to do what he can to get some pressure onto NIP on the side, prevent them from getting an equalizer. Does good damage. Karis over on the side. Oh, gets a big shield. Baron secured for Team WE. Karis goes down. Zhuo and Hoya are low as Guwon gives his life for the attempt. And Team WE have knotted up the gold. 24.5 minutes in this game.
Respect to Soldier Karis for being able to hold off all of NIP from assisting their jungler in the attempt to steal that Baron. Guwon gets over the wall, but isn't able to secure that objective. And WE gonna reset now with 4 members wearing purple. And frankly, this is where WE can be really dangerous. They didn't get, they did get 2 of the grubs, but on top of now having the Baron, it really feels like the side lane pressure that Cube and Monki, and frankly, even Karis now with that Realm Warp, I believe being level 3, can put across the board. As, yeah, going back to this play, I mean, Assum, just way too far up. Why are you, you know, further than your support, or your support and your jungler? It really felt like a gross error there from the NIP ADC, and the snipe kill there from about. Now I feel like the game has really been flipped on its head, Yanni.
You're so right, Quax, and this is kind of the problem that happens when you are so strong, right? And you feel like that you are, you know, one of the sole reasons that your team is still in the lead when the game is shortened up. You're like, I have to make this play. I have to squeeze the most out of my champion, but Misfortune doesn't have that repositioning tool. Having to just rely on that magical journey is very, very difficult. Now Team WE looking to push up a little far. Here's that magical journey. They're going to pop Monki's shield as Yaoyao trying to get away, but that equalizer on top is going to be big problems. And there's that bullet time too. Yaoyao is going to be the one to fall. Karis will Realm Warp his way in, but just a little late. Now Zhuo forced to flash away from that dark procession. Monki continuing to walk forward with a blast plant, gets Hoya out, and NIP make their escape.
Yup, it's a 1-for-0. It's just Yaoyao that goes down, but the Baron buff is still on a lot of the critical members here for WE. So even though NIP get the kill, they're still kind of having to play maintenance duty here, Yanni. They're still having to pick up these waves, absorb the pressure that WE are putting in mid and bot, and that isn't really allowing them to progress the game. But this might be the opportunity.
You can see NIP starting to get real low.
Oh god,
and Karis is able to get away. They find Guwon, and the siege can continue.
Guwon trying to get the flag and drag, but Karis is too far away. Even if you get that CC down, I don't think the rest of NIP are really capable of walking in at this point. The Rise is just too tanky. The front line is just too strong. WE, the 20-minute post buff to this team. It's a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Let there be no doubt about it.
Karis and Monki have been on the map for quite some time. Yaoyao and about now rejoining their squad, continuing to siege on 2 fronts, mid and bot. So we all know how difficult Yorick can be to try to shove off. There's that mid turret going down as Team WE look to get inside the base of NIP. Equalizer will be able to clear out most of the wave and will force off Team WE. But a very effective Baron power play puts them up almost 3,000 gold.
They don't get the inhibitors, so the supers aren't pouring in. If NIP can rebound some of these waves, maybe they can look for some kind of a contest on to this dragon, as whoever gets this next one is going to put themselves at soul point. But just the resets here for WE, you already know they're going to be the guys with superior vision. And so this is where I feel like NIP could maybe look for some of those creative angles. You've got the Bard with his magical journey. You've got the Jarvan with his flag and drag. These are tools that you can use to attack WE from pockets of vision that wouldn't normally be possible.
That Realm Warp.
Here we go.
Yaoyao, Monki there. There's a good tempered
Cube is in the
fate.
back.
Karis is ghosted up, and yeah, there's Cube from behind, causing a lot of problems. Kara gets caught too, and it's going to be a 5v3 right now, Quax, as Team WE are looking to take multiple inhibitors, maybe even the base.
I mean, I like that equalizer there from Hoya, cutting down the wave for size and kind of forcing WE to abandon the siege past those inhibitors. Like you said, those are more than likely going to go down. But Guwon also holding the wave here, forcing Karis rather, to go on a wild goose chase. How long is this actually going to go on for is the real question.
Very long, because they're heading to the dragon.
Zhuo is also doing the exact same thing.
Okay.
All right, we're
Looks
playing
like...
Crop Hunt.
Oh, no, they found him. They found him. For sure.
Get him!
Zhuo, you got to turn into a minion, brother. I know you're not Nico, but you got to turn into a minion. They see you, brother. He's dead. Tough. You lose the dragon too. I mean, this is just a very terrible sequence for NIP that was really started by Karis' Realm Warp.
And frankly, I feel like all of this can kind of be traced back to Assum getting chunked in that most recent fight, and the flash Q from about securing the kill that really turned the game around. But it just feels bad when that one little mistake is basically creating a domino effect that now puts you in a position where WE can very easily win the game if they just get one more fight win here. They've got Soul Point. Soul is really no longer a win con here for NIP unless they can find a pick and, you know, kind of give WE a taste of their own medicine by going immediately for the Baron and trying to flip that objective. It feels like the possibilities are starting to close. The doors and windows are starting to shutter themselves for the chances of NIP coming back here.
NIP on unsteady legs for the moment. 30 minutes into this game, and the best part is for Team WE, they could wait. They have scaling on their side. They could take an Infernal Soul if they want. Care trying to do something here. He goes down. There's that bullet time, but Assum's got to cancel it. Meanwhile, Monki is just mean mugging everybody, and there's that Realm Warp. Karis, though, is losing most of his shield. Will be able to zone himself exhaust down onto Hoya while he is able to claim Karis' life. That is an ace for Team WE in their comfort zone, down at 20 minutes, but not out. The resiliency of this team is one to marvel at as they take game one.
Team WE doubters, people saying 2-0 for NIP in the chat. You know who you are. WE say not today. We're looking for the 3-0.
Man, that is, I just don't know what you do. I like, the answer is clearly not give them a lead early on. Like, that is just silly talk, right? Like, I don't understand how you can keep a team like WE out, right? NIP just did everything that they should have in that early game, Quax, and are just unable to bring it across the finish line. And problem is, that's the issue with some of these compositions where you have a lot of that early front-loaded power. I'm going to be kind of honest. I think the scoreline looked okay, but I was a little disappointed by Kara in this game. I don't think we saw enough impactful Weaver's Walls.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, the Weaver's Walls were good for being used in conjunction to, like, link up with Assum and link up with Guwon. And, you know, it was nice to have the Talia in some of these aggressive fights that NIP were dominant in toward the earlier phases of this game. But toward the mid to late game, honestly, I felt like this comp fell apart. We talked about the very clear-cut identity of these guys being, okay, Cataclysm into bullet time, just look for the burst of that ultimate from the Misfortune to do the job for your team. And for the early phases of the game, that was exactly what happened. It was crystal clear and it was perfectly executed. But once they lost that fight, once Assum got picked around that dragon, everything fell apart. They were no longer able to get Cataclysm bullet time combos. They were no longer able to get the burst necessary to win out on these fights. And frankly, it just crumbled so quickly that I feel like you didn't even have time to really process exactly what happened. Like, you could pinpoint where things went wrong, but the decline was so rapid.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's kind of difficult because, you know, Assum, I think, for the most part, played a really solid game. Obviously had that positioning error that resulted in a big fight loss that ended up really turning the game, but this is the guy who got a pentakill in Misfortune and lost the game in pro play. So it is a tough pill to swallow, but a familiar feeling for him. And one player that I was impressed by a lot was Karis. And I think the most impressive part of what Karis did was very subtle. In a lot of the early game fights, where it was like, he immediately recognized, we are not winning this fight. I am going to go shove my lane. I'm going to get an advantage there by crushing these minions, denying minions away from care, and get bigger that way. And really, I think it's a big reason why he was so relevant later on in that game. Very difficult to kill, pumped out a lot of damage late. I know his damage numbers aren't crazy in this game, but was certainly a big factor outside of the Realm Warps, which were very, very solid.
And this kind of goes back and harkens back to what we talked about before the game started, Yanni, where we were saying Karis, the big difference between him in 2025 and what we've seen so far in 2026 is the self-sufficiency, being able to stand on his own two legs, being able to get resources from Monki and Yaoyao. You know, those visits from your helping hands are paying dividends at the end, but also being able to generate those leads yourself, being able to go into a side lane and crunch those minions like you said. I feel like we saw this new version of Karis in this game, and it's frankly what allowed WE to be resilient in the early phases, take a lot of this and dish it back out once they were able to scale on up, is because Karis was able to remain relevant throughout basically all of this game, despite the early game woes.
Yeah, you see a fight like that happen and you think, wow, yeah, the game was probably over, right? When you go
Yeah.
4-0 in a professional game,
Everyone
it
in
is
the chat
very,
did, I know for a
very
fact.
difficult to come back. Yeah, I mean, you know, I was thinking it. I was like, you know, Team WE, eventually they can't keep getting away with it, right? But
Yeah.
Quax, they just keep getting
Insert
away with
Jesse
it.
Pinkman.
Yeah,
Right? They can't
exactly.
keep getting away with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I'm Walter White in the car screaming at NIP, no, don't give them a gold lead. Or don't give yourself a gold lead, I'm sorry. You know what I meant.
Man. I'm Gus just watching it all happen, man. Like I'm along for the ride. I'm in my suit and tie, and I'm just ready to see what crazy stuff happens next from the members of WE, because you know, you could have a lot of questions at the end of this game, but Yanni, one question you don't have is, am I bored? Because you are not bored. This
Oh
is
no,
a
never.
really entertaining game, and I hope we get two more, frankly. I think that these two teams, even though NIP did not win this game, they were in control of it for about half of the game time. And I feel like if they are able to just be a little bit more mistake-free and not crumble the moment they meet the slightest bit of resistance from WE, we could very well see this be a competitive series from them.
Quax, I want you to think back to the moment where About was at that dragon and, you know, unfortunately was unable to make an impact in that fight. Do you think that's an error of him being up too far, or that's an
Yes.
error of NIP maybe not being up as far as they could have with him?
Straight up, I think it was an error from him. He was ahead, like, you can literally see, like, if you draw a line, like a vertical line, there should never be a point where Misfortune's line is above the Jarvan.
Agreed.
And it was. Why it was, no one knows. I think it was a positioning error from him.
Sometimes you're strong, though. Sometimes you're just like, I'm so strong, guys. Please walk up. You know, listen, I'm an AD carry player. I also play support.
If you ever do that
mostly
in
an
like
AD carry player.
scrims for the future,
I mean,
bro.
I play support. I play support in our scrims. So I never will. But I will be the one vocally telling my team, please, guys, step up. I'm very strong. Let's take a look at our player of the game. No surprise, in my opinion, it is Karis. Again, not the craziest stat line, but certainly if you watched this game, if you paid attention, made his impact known.
This is his third MVP as well. I mean, this just goes to
Look
show
at him. The
he
glow.
knows he knows business. This guy has been really good throughout the series, or rather throughout the split. Rather, thinking a little bit more grand here. Third MVP, I think, really shows that he is a much more self-sufficient player. The metamorphosis between season 2025 and season 2026 has turned this guy into someone who is a lot more entertaining to watch and who has a lot more of those pop-off moments. I think back to the Baron when he was essentially maneuvering around the fight and 1v3ing to prevent the rest of NIP from getting involved and trying to steal that Baron. It's plays like that that I think really show the evolution of Karis throughout the new year.
Both Team WE and Karis embodying the spirit of group perseverance. We'll see if NIP is able to take a page out of their book, or if Team WE are going to take it 2-0. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And on the other side, we will see Game 2 between Team WE and NIP. We'll see you on the other side.